Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day for our beloved lecturer. And first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Perdana Bima Almannaan. My metric number is 260475, and I'm from Group A. Uh, our topic is selling and buying human organs. And first of all, I want to explain about a little bit about organ transplantation. An organ transplant is a surgical operation where a failing or damaged organ in the human body is removed or replaced with a new one. Not all organs are transplanted. The term organ transplant typically refers to transplants of the solid organs. And this is the two types that organs that we can replace and that we cannot replace. Uh, the solid transplantable organs is the organs that we can replace, for example, like heart, lungs, liver, pancreas, and intestines. And other organs that we cannot replace, like eyes, ear, nose, brain, stomach, muscle, and skin, and many more that we cannot replace or hard to for us to replace. And I want to share about a little bit about the history about selling and buying human organs. In September 1983, H. Berry Jacobs, a doctor whose license to practice in Virginia, United States, was revoked after a 1990 mail fraud conviction, established a Virginia company broker human kidneys. Jacobs intended to solicit healthy individuals to sell one of their kidneys at their chosen price. A person needing a transplant would pay for the cost of the kidney plus $2,000 to $5,000 for Jacob's services. And the next one is I want to justify my position by using the ethical principle. In my honest opinion, I do not agree with selling and buying organs, human organs. Most of the people sell their organs come from poor economic condition. They want to make a real and fast money by selling their organ without thinking about their health impact in the future after they're selling their organs. And from the ethical principle, like human rights perspective, people are allowed to do the organ transplant or sell and buying their organ. It's right if no one gets hurt in this practice. So if the people do for their do for their self, and it is right in the human right because no one get hurt from that. And when some people do the human trafficking, that is cannot be included as a human right because that's illegal and that's a crime. And most of them they don't want to do they don't want to be the part of human trafficking. And that's all for me. Thank you, and I'm sorry if I have so many mistakes in this presentation.
My name is Siti Nur Hazirah. My metric number 261248. Okay, based on the issue of selling buying human organs using the theory of theology and utilitarianism, in my view, I disagree and do not support this issue being done commercially. This is because, according to the theory, theology and utilitarianism state that an action should bring goods and pleasure to the people, but in this issue, selling and buying human organ is a wrong and an illegal act done in terms of law. According to the theory and utilitarianism, this issue does not bring good and pleasure to the people because the seller of these organs are mostly made up of the poor and desperately need money to make a living. In this issue, most of these organ sellers are made up of the lower class and the poor. Therefore, they are happy to be oppressed by the upper class. Furthermore, this is This is not fair to the lower classes because they are so easily oppressed and easily deceived by organ buyer. This is desirable to do because it will give a negative effect to all parties, especially to the seller of this organ. This issue is an immoral and unethical act where the issue will leave a negative effect on some oppressed group. Based on a study conducted by Monirul Zaman, 2012, has interviewed several kidney organ sellers who are willing to share their experience selling kidney in Bangladesh. In that country, the illegal human organ market is high demand. And this study found that most kidney sellers are among the poor and oppressed because of money. Sellers have been promised to pay $1,150 for one kidney, yet most of them are not paid as a promise. According to the theory of utilitarianism, this action is considered immoral because the seller of this organ are oppressed so easily and without mercy. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Dayang Azizah Binti Busman. My metric number is 261358. So in this video, I would like to point out my opinion or my view about this question. Should the selling and buying of human organs be allowed if the organ donor is freely willing to sell his organs and there is no coercion on any party? So if asking about opinion or view about any issues, I am pretty sure that everyone has their own different opinions. Regarding this issue, all I can say is it depends on the person itself. So if the organ donor is really willing to sell his organs, then we can do nothing because it is their decision to do it. So, however, I am not supporting this issue because to be an organ donor, there are the correct ways to do it, and this action could harm and also could affect the person. So that's why I will justify my points by using Kantian ethics theory. So Kant's theory is an example of a deontological moral theory. According to this theory, the rightness or wrongness of actions does not depend on their consequences, but on whether they fulfill our duty. Kant believed that certain types of actions like murder, theft, and lying were absolutely prohibited, even in cases where the action would bring about more happiness than the alternative. So for Kantians, there are two questions that we must ask ourselves whenever we decide to act. So the first question, can I rationally will that everyone act as I propose to act? If the answer is no, then we must not perform the action. Second, does my action respect the goals of human beings rather than merely using them for my own purposes? Again, if the answer is no, then we must not perform the actions. So regarding this issue, someone who is willing to sell his organs probably have the reason why they did that. So in my personal opinion, maybe they're willing to sell their organ because they need money. And for sure, this is ethically wrong. Even if they sold your organ to a patient who really need the organ to survive, then it is also wrong, because Kant said that a person selling an internal body part is always wrong. And Kant also believed that we are all obliged to behave in a manner that respects humanity's integrity. For example, would it be morally permissible for you to buy an organ from a poor who has put his or herself up for sale to get money to buy foods or phones? So many of us believe that your buying them would be wrong. In Kantian terms, it would express disrespect for that poor's dignity by treating him or her as having mere price. So that is why to be an organ donor and selling organ is way too different. So a study in Chennai, India found that over 85% of sellers reported a decline in health after kidney removal, and that 80% would not recommend that others in similar circumstances sell a kidney. So that is why, in my opinion, the existence of such a market might harm poor people. And if they are selling your organ for their own purposes, it will affect your health and also could harm them. So in conclusion, being an organ donation and selling organ is two different things. Organ donation is the process of surgically removing an organ or tissue from one person and placing it into another person. While selling organ is usually done by a person that really needs something in their life, such as money. For example, a poor has debt with the aggressive debt collectors and they might force the poor to sell their assets like their organs, and this action would harm the poor people, and this will make them go sick and could affect their health. So that is why I am strongly disagree with selling and buying of human organs be allowed if the organ donor is freely willing to sell his organs and there is no coercions on any party.
Organ transplantation is a successful treatment for end-stage organ failure that is used all over the world. Kidney transplants are performed in 91 countries. According to the WHO, the shortage of the organ is virtually a universal problem. Due to a severe shortage of organs, especially kidneys, in Malaysia, some Malaysians has their organ transplant abroad, particularly in China and India. This is due to the fact that the two nations have the world's largest population. In terms of organ donation, Spain, Croatia and United States are the most famous countries. There will be at least 30 to 40 people who die whose organs are eligible for transplantation for every million deaths. Compared to the total number of organ donation in Malaysia, just 458 people who died donate their organs between 1974 and 2014, compared to 300,000 people who vote to donate their organs. They wait until they were dead to donate their organs, and all of these factors lead to the long wait for an organ. Can theory is the concept of goodwill, obligation, and the categorical imperative. The proper reason for act that meet moral duties and responsibilities can be categorized as goodwill and a fundamental principle defining morality. Kant claims that we can easily discern whether an action which agrees with obligation is done from duty or from a selfish view. This idea is similar to the golden rule of treat others as you would like to be treated. The true aim of organ donation is to save life. In Islam, saving one life is considered a great reward. It is also a morality in which everyone is selfless and help others. In conclusion, organ donation is not prohibited by any religion, rather it is encouraged. This is because the ability to save a life is viewed as a virtue in all religions. There is no religious law that forbids people from donating their organs. And also, it is the right of the patient to seek other options, and we can stop people from going to other countries to perform organ transplantation. Organ donation is a positive thing from a religious perspective according to Islam, Buddha, Christian and Hindus, whether it is for a good cause that allow people to live. The Malaysian Ministry of Health in collaboration with JAKIM has produced a special document on organ donation from an Islamic viewpoint, which contain very clear conclusion for organ donation based on hadith and ulama view. Similarity to various religious perspectives, one of Hinduism, ancient texts seem to have made a reference to the idea. A minority statement claims that if anyone donates a heart, the recipient must repay the favor in the donor next life, implying that the donor must have a better next life.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Siti Nurhalimah Binti Mistam, metric number 261443. Okay, our issue is selling and buying human organs. In the transplant community, selling and buying organs or paying organ donation is a sensitive issue. Part of the reason for this is that the concept of organ donation as a gift is highly regarded in many countries. Okay, now I will give my opinion on this issue. Okay, Okay, in my opinion, I'm against this issue as from my point of view, it was different from organ donation. Okay, organ donation is a legal mechanism by which an individual permission to have an organ of their own removed and transplanted into another person, either when the donor is alive or after death, with the donor's next of kin's permission. Meanwhile, bad organ donation can become illegal and was not ethical because it always penalized the weakest as the donor. Okay, according to Kant and moral rights, he believed that we are all obligated to behave in manner that respects human integrity. Kant also believed that we all have value beyond measure, regardless of our level of ability, wealth, happiness, or other people's estimation of us. Okay, Kant maintained that selling one of one's internal organs, such as tooth, to be transplanted into another's mouth is often wrong, presumably because it fails to show sufficient regard for the seller's own integrity. Okay, he seems to have assumed that the action often sends a false message that the seller himself has a mere price. Okay, another dubious absolute stance advanced by market advocates is that purchasing internal body parts from educated, voluntary, and autonomous sellers is often morally acceptable. Okay, consider this. One way to purchase someone's kidney is to buy her. Will it be ethical for you to purchase a mother who has put herself up for sale in order to raise money for her children's education as a slave? Okay. The stand means that you are buying her, believing that she is mentally competent, aware of the repercussions of her actions, and not under any pressure from others to do so. However, many of us agree that buying her will be wrong. In Kantian words, it will be disrespectful to the mother's dignity to treat her as though she were a commodity. Okay, in conclusion, such markets should raise ethical concerns, especially when it comes to their effect on the poor. Okay, I will say that no matter how well dressed pet donation is, the buying and selling of human organs can never be considered ethical because it will still harm the weakest. Okay, that's all from my point of view for this issue. Thank you so much for listening.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sharifah Lailatun Nadirah binti Syed Suhaimi. My metric number is 273919. Before I explain my own views on the topic that our group has chosen, I would like to explain a little bit about the topic, which is selling and buying of human organs. According to World Health Organization (WHO), kidney transplants are being carried out in more than 90 countries. There are about more than 60,000 kidney transplants. 20,000 liver transplants were performed all around the globe in only 2005. However, the numbers are increasing every year as higher demand in global organ market for organ transplant. Patient access to transplant of organ varies according to various factors such as the availability of organ, the level of technology capacity of the country, as well as the cost of healthcare itself. This issue is widely discussed globally as the act of buying and selling human organs are immoral and illegal. Modern Zaman has carried out this study in Dhaka. The capital of Bangladesh has approached that 33 kidney sellers, which all of whom are poor and are oppressed for money. The seller were promised to be paid $1,150 for one kidney. But then, most of them are not paid as promised. According to Zaman, what happened in Bangladesh on the organ trade is simply a labyrinth of bio-violence to those who are poor and has no knowledge in organs. Next, I would like to explain my opinion on these issues. In my humble opinion, I would definitely against the act of buying and selling organs, as it is unethical and against moral right of the seller. Most of the organ sellers are those coming from poor and vulnerable background and were manipulated to selling their organ. However, most of the time they were lied to and not getting the money as promised. Yes, it is true that organ transplantation has high concern in terms of organ availability. However, organ trade and market is against the justice and right as each human beings. Focusing on the virtue of ethics, integrity can be categorized as one of the virtue of ethics. As deeper these issues been studied, more cases have been discussed, breaching the virtue of ethics, especially integrity. Organ donation is legally and commonly considered as ethical and morally right. However, the act of buying and selling organs as in the organ market is straight violating the human right and dignity. This is due to the possibility of the seller being under influence, coercion, and emotional pressures. The other underlying argument which could related to the moral right of humans is when a certain of a sort of payment is offered to the seller in a certain circumstances could actually induce a pressure and influence seller decision in selling their organs. As stated before, most of the sellers are from poor and vulnerable groups, which is very easy to be manipulated and has low knowledge. Moral rights are jeopardized when the seller are being influenced in selling their organ in the situation where the seller are desperate for money and the offer seems too irresistible. However, there are many cases that involve violence and fraud, which is the seller end up not getting the money as well as proper treatment post-surgery. That's all from me. Thank you.